So I had someone who was asking a lot of questions about the touch and sew, was it auto reel? I forget what the other names for this system are. The Singer self-winding bobbins that look like this. They have the two layers. They unscrew so you can clean them quickly and easily. And there's a couple important things to check when you are working on one of these. First, if you're having trouble winding, it's very hard to see, but there is a single tooth on the bottom of these bobbins, and they're plastic, and you need to check them for damage, because if this tooth on the bottom is broken, or if there are chips or scratches around the edge, they will not work as well. The tooth on the bottom, of course, has to engage with the winding mechanism, so the bobbin won't wind reliably if the tooth underneath is broken. But the sides of the bobbin, that's actually how the bobbin is tensioned. When you put it in place, this holder pushes down on the bobbin, and the friction of the plastic edge of the bobbin on the bobbin case is what gives the tension to the bobbin thread. And you can see I've got laid out here 3 bobbin cases for the touch and sew. There are at least 2 styles of cases, and you can see some of them may have had a dab of paint. I don't know if this is original or if somebody put that on their bobbin case when they got their tension correct. But these first 2 cases match, and you can see when I lift, that flipper goes all the way down through the case because it's supposed to push on the bobbin. But this first style of case has 2 metal arms that extend into the case, and this style, this one moves, this lower one down by the tensioner moves, and this upper one does not. It wiggles a little bit, but it doesn't move. So when you clean these cases, you need to make sure that you're getting this lower flipper in the case to move, and then this upper one you just have to make sure that you're cleaning it really well. It doesn't move on this style of case. And if you pry on that too much, this section is weak and will break. Or if this section gets bent and there's a rough spot on the inside where I'm running my pointer here, that can cause tension troubles. This other style of case, this is the other touch and sew style of case. It has a single flipper on the inside of the case at the top here that moves. And I don't know which of these is newer or older, but they are both the same size and can be put in whichever machine. Now, all of these cases have the same style top flipper, and they have this screw in this location. That is because this screw, as we flip this over, that screw is the tension for the flipper. So when you turn this screw, that nut gets pulled in and tensions the spring, and that spring is what holds the flipper down to push the bobbin case against the edge of the bobbin, or to push the bobbin against the edge of the case and tension bobbin thread. So that's what you need to be checking if you have a tension problem on the bottom side thread with your touch and sew. There's no place for the thread to go when you load a bobbin in. You just have to set the bobbin in place, make sure that you get the flipper on, and then wherever the tail goes, draw the tail up and sew with the machine, because that tension comes from the friction of the bobbin on the bobbin case. Alright, the bobbin cases on these touch and sew machines, this happens to be a 630, so the bobbin cover slides off the back of the machine, and then there's the bobbin spring that holds that cover on, and it looks like I should clean under this because it's got a lot of fuzz. The winder on this machine is this little lever here, push to the side, and it lifts up that winder, which has the tooth that engages with the other tooth on the bobbin. So you have to make sure the plastic tooth on the bobbin is in good shape so it can engage properly on the winder in the machine. And the bobbin case retainer on this machine is lifts and slides to the side like the 400 and 500 series. And then you make sure my winder is out of the way. Bobbin case slips in place. You can see this is the oddball style I had with the single flipper. This is the case that came out of this machine that has the double flippers, and they both fit. And the case locks into the ridge on the side of the hook, and then the winder rises through the center of the case to get to the bottom of the bobbin. You'll also see that when the winder lifts, it lifts high enough to lift the bobbin off the edge of the case so that it's not tension when it's winding. And then the winder goes down, and this flipper pushes the bobbin into the case for the bobbin tension. You'll also notice that the winder turns all the time on this model. All of the touch and sews and the auto reel always turn the bobbin winder, and then engaging it is what causes it to pick up the thread and wind the bobbin instead of sewing. Yeah, so big thing is just make sure you're removing your bobbin case to clean it. A lot of fuzz likes to build up around under the bobbin winder, and this hole here is an oil spot that you should put a drop of oil in when you're oiling the machine. Underside of this touch and sew. This works for all the touch and sew machines and the auto reel. This one has the flipper that engages the winder, but they all have this winder here that has to get pushed up, and there's different mechanisms they use to push on this button, but if you're having trouble with yours not lifting, you have to come under and check. This is a plastic cam that lifts it, and I'm gonna have to oil this a bit because it's not popping up and down easily when I push on it. Others, there's a big button on the side. That's the auto reel name, I think. But the lower hook gear, they all have this shaft and the winder going through the gear that has to activate. So take a minute to get that oiled up real quick here so that it will pop up and down easily when this is flipped. But those are all the things that you should check when you're working on a touch and sew auto reel style machine and you're having trouble with the bobbins winding. Make sure that this is lifting high enough. There's a set screw adjustment or other adjustments on the other styles to make sure this lifts high enough to engage the bobbin. Make sure you've got good bobbins that have the tooth on them in good shape for engagement, and then when you need to change your tension, use that little screw on the top of the bobbin case. Alright, so for the touch and sew, once you've checked your bobbin and your bobbin case and you've shifted your machine into bobbin winding mode, set it for the straight stitch with the needle in the center and pull your tail around the anchor. You should be able to rotate the machine gently and see the thread get pulled around by the hook and then pop in place. And because the bobbin is winding, you just heard it cut this tail off, and it will continue winding the bobbin correctly. If it doesn't pull around, if the bobbin is not turning, and if it doesn't successfully cut the tail, you need to go back and double check all of the different moving parts for the system. And then when you wind the bobbin, make sure you stop at the second ring on the bobbin. In the instructions, it'll tell you there's the 3 marks. This outside ring is the full mark on these bobbins. Don't wind past the outside ring because that outside ring matches the bottom of the bobbin, and the wide top side of the bobbin, that edge is for the tension, not for loading thread onto. If you overfill the bobbin on your touch and sew, it will get tangled on the bobbin case.